Hello, sir. Can I just point out something?
Yeah.
My name is here is Ahmed, but actually my name is Amir Ali. But because I changed my courses in a kind of last minute, I'm still not registered in Canvas, so I didn't have the link. So I borrowed my friend's link to join this session because he attended the 9 a.m. session.
Okay, that's fine. We're not going to use. I don't think we're going to use any of the Zoom sessions for attendance recording. We're certainly not using this
Okay.
today, so
Okay.
don't worry.
Thank you. Just wanted to let you know.
Yeah, I see someone's also sent me a private message saying that someone else's link. So again, don't worry.
Okay, thank you.
Someone can't hear anything, so speaking to that person might not help. Stop message. Okay. Anyway, first of all, hello. Welcome, everyone. So, I guess you can read my name, but to introduce myself anyway. So, my name's Toby Kendall, and as I will explain as we go through, I am one of two module leads for Principles of Economics, but I am effectively in charge of the first half. Just to say a few things, I guess, just about kind of how Zoom is going to work. First of all, I think you already know, so I think you are already all muted. But unless I ask someone to say something, then please can you keep muted. It's up to you if you want to turn your cameras on, but I don't see any particular need for you to turn cameras on. As there are, now 197 of you across 8 screens, I wouldn't be able to see most people anyway. But one thing which you may not know, so I think I'll mention it now, is Zoom has a private message facility. And you might think that means you can talk to each other without anyone else knowing, but actually Zoom records all messages sent during the session, including private messages to the transcript. So you might think you're talking to each other without me knowing. At the time I won't know, but I'll be able to read that afterwards. So be careful about using private messaging. I'm sure you have plenty of other ways to communicate with each other during these sessions if you want to. Zoom private message might not be a great idea. As I say, it will be visible to me afterwards. Meeting password, that probably is. It kind of sets this up automatically, so I don't actually get the Zoom links in the normal way. But if you join through the Canvas link, you can definitely join straight away. Yeah, that's right. So I keep getting messages this morning telling me that Canvas isn't working and no one's going to be able to join, but now 197 of you are here. So it looks like you should be able to join directly through Canvas. And thank you, those of you who are helping and giving more information. Okay, that's my password, I never knew. Right, so I will share a presentation in a bit, but I'll share it in 2 bits. I'll also just try and answer questions at various times during this session. So you're all here. You should all know now that you come to one of these sessions this week. The way that Zoom is integrating with Canvas and our timetabling system means, unfortunately, at the moment, everyone seems to get links to all the live Zoom sessions, which is not what we'd hoped. But while that's persisting, then please at least just make sure you come to one. I'm watching the number of participants because if we hit 250, that's the Zoom limit and nobody else will be able to join. But let's hope that almost everyone who's trying to come to this session can come, and then anyone who hasn't been today will come tomorrow. I'm not going to record anything today, but what I will do is in one of tomorrow's sessions, I will record parts of it, because what I want to do is each week, there will be these 4 live Zoom sessions. I'll record at least the bits where I'm presenting in one of them each week rather than all 4, and make that available on Canvas before the end of the day on Tuesday. So just particularly given the number of people here and the number of questions I might get and struggle to answer quickly, then I won't record this one, but one of tomorrow's sessions will be recorded. So if there's anything you want to go back and look at in terms of particular bits I present, then they will appear on Canvas later. Okay, I think it probably makes sense at this stage to do my first bit of presentation. If you want to ask questions during this, that's fine, type them in the chat, but I won't pick them up until I've gone through the first bit of the presentation. So the first part is basically going to be broadly about how this module is supposed to work. And then the second bit, which I'll do after answering questions, will be a bit more specifically about the first week and about the content rather than the organization. Okay, so I will share my screen. Okay, so you should now, or with a slight lag, all be able to see my screen with some PowerPoint slides. So I'm just going to give you a quick introduction, overview of the module, say this first bit in terms of how things are going to work. First of all, who's going to teach the module? Well, I've already introduced myself. So I am the module lead for the first half of the module, which covers microeconomics. Second half of the module covers macroeconomics. Now, as I've gone on to talk more about, I know that a lot of you haven't studied economics before and may not even know what microeconomics and macroeconomics are. Don't worry about that at this stage. Just I'm doing the first half and Thomas Sebastian will be doing the second half. So that means in terms of the first half, I will be doing all the recordings and responsible for all the pre-recorded material and the written notes and other things which go up in Canvas. There are 2 other lecturers in the department who are contributing towards the module, Iliu and Jan Jozvik. So between Jan and me, for this first half of the module, we will between us cover all the Zoom and live face-to-face sessions. But we may mix and match a bit according to who's available and who can easily come onto campus at any time. If you're wondering, do I live in a flat or house with bare concrete walls, or is my office? It is actually my office that has bare concrete walls, or a bare concrete wall. I might turn myself around so you get a better view next time. But obviously at various times it may be difficult for some people to come to campus. But between us, we will cover the face-to-face sessions and the Zoom sessions. This week and next week, I'm doing all the Zoom sessions. That's all there is running in the first 2 weeks. But after that, we'll mix things up between ourselves a bit more. And then last thing on this slide is just a general admin queries address, BBS UG Economics. That's if you have administrative queries, any queries about the content, I'm more likely to be the right person to ask. Okay, so how's this module running? So in a normal year, and I think we're all aware this year is not normal, in a normal year, what we would do is we'd have each week 4 hours of lectures in a big lecture theatre with 300 or 400 students there. And starting from the 3rd week of the semester, we'd also have small group seminars. So this year, everything that would normally be covered in the lectures is going into recorded material. So it is, although things are being slightly structured differently, broken chunks in place, so you won't have 1 hour lecture recordings. I think pretty much every slide that would normally appear in my face-to-face lectures is going to appear in one of these recordings on Canvas. So the total length of material each week is likely to be shorter, likely to be like 2 hours rather than 4 hours. Partly that's because when I'm recording material, I'm less likely to go over things again, kind of explain things again, because if you want to hear the explanation again, you can just rewind and go back and listen to it again. So it seems fairly pointless, me doing what I normally do, going over things again just to kind of clarify things. So that saves a fair amount of the time compared to the normal lectures. The other thing is, in my lectures, normally I would make announcements. I would talk a bit about essays, assignments. As I'll explain as I go through, I'm going to use these Monday and Tuesday Zoom sessions to do some of those bits. So you'll probably end up with about 2 hours worth of recordings broken down into chunks each week, which cover the same content as the 4 1-hour lectures would cover in other years. Also, and this will be clearer when you get into week 2 and see the week 2 material, I tend to provide more detailed written notes on each topic, not just the slides and voiceovers. The way I prepare things to teach is probably quite different to a lot of people. A lot of people start by preparing slides, but I always start by writing out slightly more detailed written notes. So I use them as kind of the basis for the content and then condense things a bit into slides. So then I provide you with the written notes, which will have a bit more detail in places, a bit more explanation in places, and that's available. That will be available for you each week alongside the recordings, which will be slides and voiceovers. I thought about different ways of doing the recordings. For a while, I thought I'd do them standing actually in a lecture theatre in front of a screen, but then looking at the practicalities of that, given the way that space is being used for face-to-face teaching, it's just too difficult to book space to recording as well. So my recordings I'm doing, as some of you may already have looked at, as slides with a voiceover. Okay, and you can think about these slides with the voiceover and the written notes combined as a syllabus for the module. So I'll say a bit about the textbook in a minute, but anything which I expect you to know comes from the slides and the notes. If there are other topics covered in the textbook I don't cover in lectures, you don't need to know them as well. So again, we'll come back to the textbook in a minute. That doesn't mean you just have to learn and repeat. You are expected to apply the ideas, whether I give you questions as we go through the module, whether it's essay questions or exam questions, and again, I'll talk about the assessment as we go through. There are times where you need to apply this rather than just learn and repeat, but the material you need to know is the material I give you on Canvas. So that's the textbook. First of all, I'm just going to apologise that you don't have currently an up-to-date resource list and links through the module Canvas page. There are two reasons for this. The first reason is simply that things have been slightly more complicated preparing this year than normal. So this year, there is a new edition of the main textbook we use in the module. I think I received my copy in the week in which the university was shut down and campus was closed. And from then until 2 weeks ago, I had no access to my office and so couldn't even see the textbook, which had just arrived. So that's part of why things are slightly lagging behind. But actually, more importantly, is I'm trying to clarify whether or not you can have free access to the ebook version of the textbook. So please don't, for now, pay for either the ebook or a hard copy of the textbook. I was quite surprised on Friday last week to get an email from the publisher saying that the university had arranged for you to have free ebook access. One sense, that sounds really good because it's good for you to have access. In other sense, it's quite strange that no one mentioned it to me when I'm teaching the module. I've been trying to clarify that, still trying this morning to clarify whether you have that access and how you can get it. What I'm hoping is that over the course of this week, that will all be clarified, and I will actually be able to provide links in Canvas for you to get to the relevant parts of the ebook. If not that, at least clear instructions on how you can access the ebook. But I'm still trying to track that down because nobody seems to have quite realised that the university is suddenly providing ebook access that we haven't previously had. So that's my long way of apologising for the fact this isn't quite as organised as it might be. But the main module textbook is by Mankiw and Taylor. If you want a hard copy, then either the current 5th edition or a second-hand copy of the 4th or 3rd edition will be fine. I say we are looking into ebook access. I don't slavishly copy the textbook, but when I prepared the material, it was based on, now actually not the latest version of the textbook, but it's consistent with the textbook in terms of how the materials approach, notations used, those kinds of things. The textbook is there really to help you understand and to give you more kind of background on the topics that we're covering. So, as I've already said, things that aren't in the textbook, things that are in the textbook I don't teach you, you don't need. If you understand everything perfectly based on my notes and the recordings and the live sessions in Zoom and face-to-face, then that's great. You won't need to use the textbook very much. But if you need more help in understanding things, that's what the textbook is really there for, to help you enhance your understanding, to give you that additional source to help you understand things you might not grasp first time from the recordings or playing them back and looking at the notes. Alternative textbook, Sloman, Guest and Garrett, or other editions, Sloman with various different authors over time. That's just an alternative introductory economics textbook. It will cover all the same material. It won't be quite as close an approach to Mankiw and Taylor because I was referring to Mankiw and Taylor when I prepared this material, but basically it will cover the same things, and there'll be copies of that in the library for those of you who are physically on campus and able to go to the library. Again, sort out what's happening with the ebook and give everyone an update on Canvas later in the week. And I've already said, you don't need to cover textbook topics that aren't covered in the lectures. That's definitely true for my half. If Thomas tells you something differently for macroeconomics, listen to him. But for my part of the module, the online recordings and my notes are the syllabus. So what are we going to do in the Zoom sessions? First thing to say is these live Zoom sessions are all on Mondays and Tuesdays. I think I would be quite unreasonable, particularly for those people joining at 9 o'clock on Monday morning, if I asked you to prepare or to cover that week's material before 9 o'clock on Monday morning. So because of the timetabling, because these are on Mondays and Tuesdays, the main focus in each week of these large group Zoom sessions will be the recordings and the other material put up for the previous week. So each week, I would expect you to cover the material on Canvas during that week, and then we will base the Monday or Tuesday morning session primarily on that material. And you do need to review that material. What I will start doing is during the week, as well as having all the material there, I will also start putting up kind of review questions. things that I think you should be able to answer based on the content you covered that week. They will also feed into the Monday and Tuesday sessions. So what you should do is watch the recordings, look at the notes, then during the week there'll be some questions put up there, see if you know the answers to them, come to the Monday session where we may go through some of those answers, or I may just kind of ask you which things did you find difficult. In terms of the kind of education jargon, basically using these Monday and Tuesday sessions, we're taking a flipped approach. So rather than me teaching you stuff on the Monday and Tuesday, you need to review the material before then, and then the Monday and Tuesday we'll take the assumption that you've looked at that material, and then we'll maybe explore some of it in a bit more detail. I'll answer questions on things that you're finding hard. We'll discuss things. But if you haven't gone through the material in, let's say, over here, if you haven't gone through the week 3 material before the Zoom session on Monday or week 4, you're not going to get a lot out of that session. So you need to cover the material during the right week, and then sessions on Monday and Tuesday the following week will pick up on that. What else are we going to do in the Zoom sessions? There'll be some assessment preparation. So again, I'll say more about assessment in a minute. You will write an essay for me, which will be submitted in about a month's time. And there will be an exam that covers both parts of the module, exam or alternative. Again, I'll say something about that in a minute. But I will use part of these Monday and Tuesday Zoom sessions to talk about the assessment, talk about how to write an economics essay in general, talk about how to write an essay on the topics you're given, and to start going through questions in similar form to those I use in the exam or the end of module online assessment. So there'll be some of that in the large group Zoom sessions. And also each week, I will provide a short preview of the next topic. So I'm not going to run through lots of the material that's pre-recorded and on Canvas, but I'll give you a kind of introduction to the topic. This is what it's looking at. These are sort of things to look out for. And that will come at the start of the week again. So that it will kind of mostly be based on reviewing the previous week's material, but with a little bit that will also preview the next topic that's coming up. And any of these sessions, any material I present will be recorded, not in each of the 4 sessions, but in one of the 4. So any bit like this, where I'm presenting material, one of the 4 sessions I will record that, and that will be made available on Canvas by the end of the Tuesday. But other bits where I'm answering questions, or where maybe having some discussion on something, those parts I'm not going to record. So those bits will only be there live, but I'll make sure that all the content I'm trying to get across to you in that session, the substantive content, will be recorded for anyone who can't attend any of those Zoom sessions for the week. Then the other thing that we'll run is small group seminars. So these, due again to some timetabling miscommunication, you may all see a face-to-face on-campus seminar appearing on your timetable for this week, but they don't actually start until week 3. That's not just this year, that's the same every year. The reason for that is that you need to actually be taught something and then try and answer some questions on it before you can then come to those seminars and go through the answers. And I'll say something after I've had a pause and take some questions about how week 1 is different from other weeks. But for a lot of you, this week's a fairly light week. The big bulk of main material for a lot of you starts in week 2. And so the first questions will be based on that. So the seminars don't start until week 3. So this week, you're here now. This is the only thing you need to attend this week. Next week, again, there'll be a Zoom session only. From week 3 onwards, fortnightly, there will be those seminars. For those of you on campus and able to attend, they will be face-to-face. For those of you who can't attend, there will be equivalent small group seminars running through Zoom alongside these live group sessions. Last thing before I have a pause and see if you have any questions is assessment. So there are two 1,000-word essays during this semester, each worth 25%. First essay is due on 29th of October. That will be set by me. The other essay set by Thomas, I think the due date is early December. So we time them so that you answer the first one, you get some feedback, then you can use that feedback in preparing your second essay. I will give you title, probably a choice of two titles actually, and some guidance next week, and talk a bit about the essay in general terms next week, but then say more about the specific titles the 2 weeks after that, as we've covered some more material. So two essays each worth 25%. Then something in January worth 50%. Now I say something, none of us know at this point whether we will be able to run traditional exams in big rooms with everyone sitting there with invigilators in January. My guess is that we may not be able to run them at all, and we absolutely understand that even if we run them, not all students will be on campus and able to attend. So we'll either run things in parallel with a session with its sort of traditional style exam for those on campus and something equivalent to those students online. Or my guess is the university will probably make a decision that it will all be online, and so you'll all get the assessment equivalent to the exam online in January. So that will be worth 50%. There's a specific style of questions that I'm planning to use, which I will introduce to you over the course of the module. So you'll get an idea about the sort of questions, practice on those sort of questions, but whether or not you're actually in the exam room or online, we will have that final 50% assessment for the module in January. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. I think maybe a couple of questions coming in, and more questions, please feel free to type in. I'll say something about how this week's going to work and an overview of the content afterwards. Anything so far? Let me have a look. Are these sessions different to seminars? Yes, they are. So these sessions are basically, although there's some interaction in terms of me answering your questions, me giving you questions to do in advance, these are sessions which in theory should have about 100 people each. We've got 200 in this one. I had 86, I think, at 9 o'clock, so I guess numbers are going to be lower tomorrow, which is fine. But yes, all 4 Zoom sessions in the week cover the same material. You come to one of them. Then from week 3 onwards, the seminars, face-to-face, hopefully for most of you, on Zoom for some of you, those cover different material. You will have specific questions to answer for them, which whoever is taking that seminar will go through. There may be some discussion. You'll be expected to do things in advance. That will be separate. So this week and next week, one of the 4 Zoom sessions each week, and that's all. Starting in week 3, we'll still have the large group Zoom sessions, but also the small group seminars. Let's have a look. Question from Erin, you said only carry out one of these Zoom calls a week. You mean overall just for this module? Now, for each module, some modules may be different. Some modules may have more small group sessions, but for most modules, I know this is also true for the academic skills module that all of you in economics are doing. For most modules in economics, these Zoom sessions will run every week. So you have probably 4 appearing on a timetable principles of economics, of which you come to 1. Then if you have 1, 2, 3, or 4 for a specific other module, you go to one of them, and so on. If there are none for that module, that may mean that that module is doing things differently, particularly for those of you on joint honours, or doing PPE, or doing liberal arts. Then in other subjects, things might work quite differently. But for most economics modules, there is this weekly live Zoom session, which will last up to 90 minutes, maybe less, depending on how many questions people have. Georgia, when we find out which Zoom session we should attend? What a good question that is. Okay. The short answer to this seems to be that the way Canvas and Zoom and the timetabling system currently talk to each other, even though these sessions are supposed to only be for some students each, they now all appear for everyone. So I think, I may be wrong, but I think that if you looked at your timetable, if the app was working, before Friday afternoon, when I set up the Zoom sessions, I think before then, you only appeared in one of these groups, but then suddenly adding the Zoom sessions meant you appeared in all four of them. If we can sort out a way of getting everyone back in that individual session you're supposed to be in, that would be great, because we'd have 4 groups around the same time, same size, sorry, at different times. If we can't do that, then I think we're just going to have to live with the fact that you have those 4 sessions and you choose which of those 4 to come to. Now, I can see as the number of messages keeps going up. I've got 15 new messages now, that it's going to be more complicated with 200 students in a session than with close to 100, which I had at 9 o'clock. So we would like to get it back to roughly even sizes, but it may simply be that the technology isn't going to let us do that. And if they all appear on our timetables, I think we can't really insist that you come to the one we want you to rather than the one you want to do. Okay, where is the content that we have to read for the next week put up? So this is where, as long as Canvas is working, I'm going to go back and share my screen and actually show you what you should see in Canvas. Oops, so I didn't actually want to share the presentation. Let me try again. So what do I want to share? Let's come back to share screen. Screen. Okay, so here I have Canvas up in student view. So this is not what I'd normally see, but this should be how you see the module. So when you come in to the module homepage, Principles of Economics, then click on week by week. Then if you scroll down, ignore for now the general module information at the top, you then see week 1, 28th of September 2020, preliminary material for students who haven't studied economics before. And below that, introduction for all students. Don't worry too much about those separate bits. I will talk more when I go to the other part of my presentation. What I will show you though is, if you want to then watch one of the videos, so about the introductory material, that's just a quick document telling you whether you should be looking at it. But let's say you want to watch the key concepts video, click on key concepts. That then will take you to the recording on key concepts. So what I will do is, no later than the Monday morning of each week, I will publish that week's material. So week 1 is here now. Either before next Monday or first thing Monday morning, I will publish week 2. That will then give you the next set of recordings to look at. Okay, stop sharing my screen. Is there a reason why we don't all have the mathematics for economic sessions in our timetable? Oh, there are okay, this is my guess. There are 2 different modules for maths, depending on whether you have studied A-level maths or equivalent or not. One of the modules, my guess is, has probably already published the information and you can see it. And if you're on the other module, you won't see that. It is, of course, possible you may have been put on the wrong module of the 2, and you maybe think you should see one that you're not seeing, in which case all I can suggest is you contact either the undergraduate office or Joe Bromfield, or if you know who the module leader is, the module leader, and ask them to try and resolve that. But you take different modules, so not everyone should have the same things on your timetable. Okay, we have another Toby here. That wasn't me typing the question. Hello, Toby. So do we have the 4 pre-recorded lectures, then the Zoom sessions on Monday and Tuesday? Okay, so the pre-recorded content won't be typically exactly 4, but it will be the content equivalent to 4 lectures, probably broken down into more parts. What you should do is watch the week 1 material that's on Canvas, then attend the Zoom session on Monday or Tuesday, week 2. After that, watch the week 2 recorded material on Canvas, then go to the Zoom session, which we'll discuss that in week 3 and so on. When I say worth 25% or 50% of that of the module, yes, it is. So each essay is 25% of this 20 credit module. The exam or equivalent is 50% of the 20 credit module. How many modules are we doing at one time? I'm going to be careful because not everyone here is on an economics major. Some of you in joint honours, liberal arts, etc., may be doing things slightly differently, but most of you this semester are taking 4 modules. This is worth 20 credits. Your maths module will be worth 20 credits, and you'll have 2 others each worth 10. So at least for those of you based in economics and doing purely economics, MES, MBF, one of those degrees, that is what you're likely to have. What is the title of the essay? Zishan, I'm afraid you have to wait until next week for that, so you need to be patient. And what week do we start being taught macro? It will be in week 6. I'll say more about the structure later on, so that should be clearer then. In terms of reading list, there is nothing on Canvas at the moment. What do I do? Kadir, I think you're going to need to be a little bit patient. As I said, what I want to do is actually sort out whether or not you have free ebook access and provide the best links to them. I think there is not a lot that you need to read at the moment. I think, again, I'll talk about what you should be doing this week, depending on your background in a minute. But I think for those of you who haven't studied economics before, there is plenty to keep you occupied while we sort out the textbook. And for the rest of you, you have quite a light week. So the reading, so there won't be much reading other than the textbook, so we'll sort that out. Zishan, the deadline is not tomorrow. Fortunately for you and everyone else, it's 29th of October. If it was 29th of September, I would be really, really cruel setting you an essay with a deadline the day after you start. Kadir, there is also, but when you click on it, it is blank. I will sort this out technically. I have followed all the steps I was asked to follow to make sure that the videos would be visible to you. I know that Canvas and Panopto are having some issues today, not just in Birmingham, but nationally with the sudden demand. I will check that. For me in Student View, it clicks as something I can see. I will make sure that's working, but I can't do that right now. Can we do the work for the following week any day as a full live session? Yes, I am not trying to, I'm not telling you exactly when you need to watch the recorded content, just do it before the next live session. Will the in-person seminar cover content for the previous week? Normally, yes, or maybe because they're fortnightly from the 2 weeks before, but you will be given specific questions to answer for them. Irfan, I got an email asking me to join this particular 11 a.m. Zoom session, and you're here. That's great. I'm not sure why some people are getting different things, but that's, yeah, you're here now. As long as you know you come to this session, you don't need to come to any more this week. That's perfect. Jingran, where can we get the ebook? Again, please be patient. I will sort that out. Wow, the number of unanswered messages is going up even as I answer these. Okay, Zishan, no problem. Yes, like month. Well, are these first few weeks quite similar to economics at A-level? Hold on to that question. If it's not clear after I've presented my next bit of presentation, come back and ask me. And again, Karanjit. I will talk about week 1 content in a minute. So if you're still not clear after that, then ask me. Can I provide you with some websites that can help us writing essays? Right. I will provide you next week with some links to some resources. Let's put it that way. I will also say something about websites that can help you writing essays next week. I'm sure you don't mean it in the way that worries me, but next week I'll talk to you more specifically about essay preparation and give you some links. Jamie, do any of our grades for our modules in our first year Count to our final degree classification? The grades don't. You need to pass at least 100 out of 120 credits. And even if you pass that, failing something this year can affect your degree classification. But in terms of your final degree classification, getting 58 or 68 or 78 this year won't affect that. But it's still important. You may be applying for internships next year, for example. And based on them, they'll want to see your grades from this year. So they matter, but they don't formally feed into your degree classification. After completing the module, are we going to see it in an exam ever again? Okay, most of you will be studying economics for 3 years, and what you study builds on previous years. So, for example, this year, there are quite a lot of topics I will cover with you that I will do without any maths in. You will cover the same topics next year, a lot of them, in more detail and with more maths. So you won't need to remember this year in terms of taking an exam, specifically asking you about this year again, but following years will build on this year's material. So you don't just need to learn it, pass the exam, forget all about it, because you'll actually cover similar topics next year. You'll find next year much easier if you remember things from this year. When I find out about accessibility for the ebooks, again, I've answered that. As soon as I can get the answer, I will share it with you. How much recorded content do we need to watch this week? Hang on, I will talk about this week in a minute. How long do I estimate each week's content to take you to do? Interesting question. If all you do is sit there, watch each video once, and then think, okay, I understood all that, I know all that, that's fine, might take you about 2 hours. Most of you, at least at times, won't sit there, absorb everything first time. You may want to read the notes, you may want to read the textbook, you may want to go and watch bits of recording again. I will, later in the week, this week, and later in other weeks, provide some questions, review questions, and things to provide guidance for the following Zoom session. You might want to look at them. And it will vary how long individuals take to cover all of that to the extent that they need to. In terms of studying in general, we think as a full-time student, it's reasonable to think you spend about 40 hours a week studying. That's equivalent to having a 9-to-5 job. Obviously, you may study at different times, at evenings, weekends, and not 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. But we think you should spend about 40 hours a week on effort across your modules. That includes attending face-to-face and live sessions. That includes watching recorded material. It includes answering coursework. Possibly in early weeks, you'll have less coursework to do, so that 40 weeks may be a bit lower. It may be a bit higher in later weeks and when you're revising. But it will differ from person to person exactly what activity you do for this module and how long you spend. Kadir, are there any formulae you need to memorize? For this module, no, because this module is taken by some people who aren't studying any maths, so there won't be mathematical formulae as such. You just need to understand the content. Now, can you find the slide in Canvas? At the moment, the slides are only there as part of the recordings. If it turns out the problem accessing the recordings, I can stick the slides up separately as a kind of interim measure, but at the moment they're not there separately from the versions with the voiceover. should we be taking notes on preliminary material stuff on Canvas? Again, I'll talk about the preliminary material in a minute. Is there a cumulative exam with everything done throughout the course at the end of the course? If you mean for this module, Principles of Economics, yes. If you mean for the first year or for BSc Economics, no. Everything is modular. You get assessed based on each module. This is great. It's great having 200 people here. The number of new messages is still going up as I'm answering these as quickly as I can. Wilson, I'm confused whether the Zoom sessions are the same as the lectures. The Zoom sessions, okay, we don't have standard lectures as such. What would normally be lecture material is recorded. Then the Zoom sessions are based on that material, going through that material. So I am not going to turn up in Zoom and give you a lecture. I expect you to watch all the material. That's the equivalent of the lecture content, but the Zoom sessions are taking a flipped approach. It's doing things based on that material rather than me lecturing you. Someone has found the ebook version of the 3rd edition, which in itself is good if it's free, but it'll be even better if I can actually find you a link to the 5th edition, which is the latest one. But the 3rd edition is actually all the substantive content is the same, so thank you. Okay. I may actually, well, I can copy and paste that link for future reference in case I need it. So thank you, Chenga, for that. Just let me paste that there. Okay. Yeah, sorry, I'm really not sure I should learn the mathematical economics or not. What you study this year depends on your degree program and which modules you are. I'm afraid I can't help you with that now. If you're confused, if you email either the undergraduate office or if you're based in economics at Bromfield, we can probably help you. Abdul, what if you got a face-to-face seminar at the same time as Zoom sessions? We will sort that out. I know there is one face-to-face seminar starting in week 3 at 11 o'clock on Monday, as well as Zoom. We'll make sure if those both happen, nobody is in both of them. Okay, it was telling me I had 41 new messages. That's actually because it wasn't updating. I've got through to the end of all the questions currently there. That's a nice surprise. Okay, I'm going to have one more bit of presentation now and then take more questions at the end. So my last bit of presentation is going to be, first of all, specifically what's happening this week, and then a quick overview of the rest of my part of the module. So let me share my screen again with the slides. Okay, so what happens in week 1? Now, every year in this module, roughly a third of students come here, not having studied economics before, while 2/3 have studied maybe economics A-level, maybe an alternative economics high school qualification, maybe economics on a foundation program. And so we start from a point where people have slightly different backgrounds. That's fine. What I want to do is to avoid being in a position where right the way through the next 6 weeks of my content, where I am continually having to explain basic things to people who already know them. So roughly 2/3 of you here know what the demand curve is and know it slopes down. The other third of you may never have heard of a demand curve. 2/3 of you know what opportunity cost is, know what marginal analysis is. A third of you think I'm talking complete nonsense at the moment. That's fine, that's what we expect. So what we do is we spend the first week getting those people who haven't studied economics before, familiar with some basic concepts, basic ideas to help you actually reach a point where then you can attend lectures alongside everything else. I don't have to explain all the really basic stuff to people who already know it, but I don't lose you because we've covered that in this first week. So by week 2, we want everyone studying together, but without having to stop and explain to everyone what a demand curve is, or to explain to everyone what a factor of production is, and some of the basic terminology. How do we do this? What we do is week 1 is mostly content for students who haven't studied economics before. So I put the Canvas section up on Student View just now. There was a big section there of introductory material for students who haven't studied economics before. And then just a little bit below says the introduction to economics for everyone. So if you've never studied economics before, then the first thing you should do